今天将是我与你分享我宝剑重叠的日子，阴阳气流混沌，一切我都能够做到。我不相信会有人知道关于你的一切，我所了解的。
Today is gonna be the day I share a chrysalis with you. Yin yang, chi flow, undone, all I've gotta do. I don't believe that anybody knows what I know about you now. And the vines in your mind realm are winding, and all my rage inside this fox is blinding. I'm only here to exact my vengeance on you, and now I know how. Because maybe you won't be the one that slays me. Time for you to go.
Iron Widow by Xiran Jay Zhou is a dark and distinctive young adult science fiction novel. Published in 2021, Iron Widow leans on familiar YA tropes and themes while also delivering unique conflict and a real dive into the sadistic. While I don't often work YA fiction into my reading, I did mention in my 2022 reading goals video that I would attempt to read at least 2 YA sci-fi or sci-fi adjacent novels this year. Iron Widow wasn't quite as sci-fi as I was expecting, but it definitely was a fit-to-be-read reading experience. Also noted in the 2022 preview video, I read Iron Widow as part of a buddy read with Robin from the book Wormhole, so check out the descriptions below for the links. I would recommend this book for anyone with interest in Chinese-inspired or generally non-Western storylines, found family, gender examinations, queer content, young adult fiction with adult themes, fans of Pacific Rim or The Hunger Games, and those who don't have a strong aversion to dark themes like abuse and torture. As with each review on this channel, the episode will begin with a spoiler-free review, character analysis, and plot summary to introduce you to this novel. Following that summary, I'll announce a 5 likes and a 5 dislikes segment that will include spoilers for those who've read this novel and just can't get enough. To make sure that you don't miss future reviews, please click the subscribe button, click the notification bell, do that now before we begin. Also, I'm going to be working more music into my reviews in the future, so be on the lookout for that because you don't want to miss it. The Far East setting and Chinese themes immediately distinguishes Iron Widow from other YA science fiction that I've read. That's not to say that there aren't familiar vibes. There are moments that call to mind The Hunger Games and also, as mentioned, the movie Pacific Rim. For young adult sci-fi, that's pretty good company. Iron Widow is action-packed, filled with drama, at times dark, and for those who filter for it, instances of abuse and violence. The main character, Zetian, is a young girl who suffers the fate common to girls in her culture: second-class status to boys, expendability, low expectations, mutilated and bound feet, and more. The greater suffering and catalyst for most of her actions is born from the death of her older sister. She's out for vengeance. In this world, the people of Wuxia are engaged in constant warfare with the Hunduns. We learn early on that the Wuxians' original ancestral home, the Zhao province, fell to the Hunduns 221 years ago. Those of the Zhao province and various tribes of the Central Plains came together to form Wuxia. The primary resistance to the Hundun were giant chrysalis warriors piloted by men and women with incredible resource of and ability to conjure chi. Male pilots were considered warrior kings. The women were simply considered concubines, only present in the chrysalises to provide their chi or have their chi siphoned by the male pilot while they fought and defended the permanent settlement. Chrysalises named after butterfly chrysalises were created using the reclaimed spirit metal husks of slain Hunduns. These husks were used to create giant mech-like warrior robots of a sort that could be operated by pilots with extremely high chi ratings. It's rumored that the chrysalises were invented 700 years ago by the Yellow Sovereign and his wife, Lei Zhu. Supposedly they invented them. See, there were questions about whether they were really real people or if this really happened. It was 700 years ago. Back to the pilots. The male pilots were considered warrior kings for sure, but present day, they had little power outside of their chrysalis other than the power of celebrity, and for sure, they were celebrities. As for the females riding shotgun, their experience was quite different. They often didn't survive their battle. Their chi siphoned and drained during the battle. They didn't recover. They died, sacrificed only to be replaced by another expendable female. Outside of battle and outside of the chrysalis, females were simply concubines with no status or agency. The role of the concubine is to provide, as they are told, companionship to the greatest heroes of our time. You exist to please him. Inside the chrysalises, apparently you only exist for him to drain your chi. There's no shortage of sacrifices. In Uaxia, if you are at least mildly attractive, you're either sold to rich men in the cities or enlist as concubine pilots. If you are selected as a concubine pilot, you're shuttled off to headquarters and tested in a chamber beneath the Great Wall to identify your chi level. Concubines are matched with pilots with nearly the same chi level. This is considered a balanced match. Balanced and ideal because the female has slightly lower chi flow and thus the more likely of the two to die piloting because, of course, she's replaceable. Chi flow is, of course, used to pilot the chrysalises. Iron Widow gets a bit of a cool video game Pokemon feel at times. As the chrysalises level up, the greater the flow of chi contributed by the pilots. The basic form is the dormant or standing form. In this form, a chrysalis, take the fox for example, is basically a large dominant mech resembling an exaggerated large warrior version of the animal that it's named after. There is ascended form, which is a much larger, more dominant form with a mix of fox and humanoid physical traits. And then finally is heroic form, which is the ludicrous, ridiculously gigantic, towering mech and the most humanoid physical traits. Pilots on duty remain on call at the Great Wall and adjacent watchtowers just outside the wall. The watchtowers overlook the final plains that reach into Hundun territory. The little bit we know about the leadership and prime ruling elite of this world is that there are sages who oversee a central command. Presumably, central command oversees and runs the day-to-day military stuff and makes most of the military decisions unless they're overruled by the sages. The book lives and breathes on the characters and the action sequences. Zetian is driven by her need to avenge her sister. The prologue of the book opens with a battle scene featuring a dominant mech, the nine-tailed fox. It just so happens the warrior pilot, Yang Wang, is Zetian's target. Though much of the character development is rushed and remains mostly just surface level, there are occasional and interesting layers. One of the main characters, Li Shimin, is presented as a scary and murderous criminal with hints of a less understood past and personality. Zetian's friend Gao Yiji, introduced as a docile and meek, rich, pretty boy, also may have some tricks up his sleeve. There's a romance presented in the novel that for some will feel rushed, very rushed, and for others it will be just right and it will suit the pace of the story. This is YA, it's not, super deep dive, so it is surface level, it's pretty superficial, but it does fit the pace of the story. Bisexuality and polyamory representation featured in the book, it's handled very well. A simple but resonant line is, "The notion that men and women must be only with each other tires me as much as the pilot system." Zetian's character is exciting and easy to root for. It does not matter that she is mostly one node and one gear because that gear drives the story. Zetian is ruthless in her pursuit of vengeance and her rejection of the inhumane accepted norms of society especially as it pertains to gender distinctions. While she is easy to root for, she is not a predictable YA heroine. Just when you think you know her, understand her, know her pain, understand her anger, she surprises you. There's a little bit of villain in this hero. Unique about this character is how empathy works with her and how she justifies to herself her brand of justice, the decisions she makes, and the lengths she will go. She is a justifiably stubborn gender warrior, and she will f you up if she decides you are part of that problem. I've ruthlessly avoided spoilers to this point, and that's about to change. Here are my 5 likes and 5 dislikes for Xiran Jay Zhou's Iron Widow. Like number 1, Zhao delivers a very inspired character in Zetian. She is the hero of the story, but there still remains questions surrounding how much she is driven by her own anger and need to get what she wants, and her quest to change the system to prevent more women from becoming sacrificial concubine pilots. There is overlap and she feels mostly noble, but there is enough ambiguity to give the character texture and a lasting residue in my mind. Like number 2, YA isn't my go-to, and that's fine. I do like in YA when there are moments that feel quite real and quite adult, and Widow presents a lot of this early in the book, where a culture that devalues females is called out. Like number 3, her constant refrain of "stop me, stop me." We get all of that without the refrain, but that really sharpens the knife and is a satisfying edge to our main character. Like number 4, I was leery early on because I could tell that this just wasn't my type of read, but boy am I easy prey for a narrative that takes an honest look at culture and judges the part of that culture that are atrocious. I'm not in the habit of judging a culture, and I do believe in respecting different customs in different places in the world and different cultures. We look at it with different eyes, obviously. I do, however, think there are some base universals when it comes to devaluing or threatening one's agency, liberty, and physical well-being in the name of cultural norms. Zhao is not playing around or sitting down for any of it. Dislike number 1, Widow drifts slightly into that CW teen drama territory when out of nowhere someone saves her from attack, and it's her old friend Yaji. The moment calls for the surprise defender to be from the already existing cast in order to deliver maximum impact. This came across a bit contrived. This was more of a dislike at the time it occurred. Finishing the book, it does fit, it does feel right, because the character relationships are rushed to serve a quick-paced story. The trade-off are these eye-roll moments that need further reading to resolve. Dislike number 2. I withdraw a bit from the story when we get more into Li Shimin's backstory, and the cliche is heavy. Surprise, the bad boy and the criminal brute actually was an honor student and an all-around good guy. At the very beginning, I was willing to buy in, but again, it's when Yaji steps in and delivers the binder on this secret good guy that more eye rolls just begin for me. Dislike number 3, the Three Musketeers gag me. Not the relationship, but like it feels like the Hunger Games and Katniss ends up roommates with Peeta and whatever that other guy's name was. I like their eventual romance that I maybe saw coming, but it doesn't excuse the "oh, give me a break" plot device of getting them all together as roommates. Dislike number 4, when the Iron Demon and Iron Widow are getting their crowns, the story dips more into the superficial, and I can't stop seeing the Hunger Games Girl on Fire wardrobe reveal in my head. The whole lead up and the delivery of the fashion wow moment is uncomfortable. Like number 5, Widow descends back into the dark. I'm not expecting them to make Anne LaShawn think that they've murdered his son, and I was really expecting them to stop short of killing LaShawn. Throw in the "let them all die" moment where she has to decide her family's fate, and she adopts and channels this Ivan Drago from Rocky IV, "if they die, they die" attitude. Iron Widow by Xiran Jay Zhou is an action-packed and entertaining read featuring mech warriors, polyamorous romance, themes of vengeance and alien surprises, Chinese mythology-inspired storytelling, and a rewarding climax. Those who love young adult science fiction will love Zetian, a powerful and unapologetic feminine hero. For all of those reasons, Iron Widow is certainly fit to be read. Thank you for watching. I'm Michael Leverts. This is Fit to be Read. Like and subscribe. Click the notification bell and YouTube will let you know every Thursday at 1 o'clock when I release new content. Thank you.
Today is gonna be the day I share a chrysalis with you. Yin yang, chi flow, Handan's all I've gotta do. I don't believe that anybody knows what I know about you now. And the vines in your mind realm are winding, and all my rage inside this fox is blinding. I'm only here to exact my vengeance on you, and now I know how. Because maybe you won't be the one that slays me.